This is the simplest auto-crafting setup in Applied Energistics 1.21. Hello, I'm Fail and welcome to the video. So we're going to end up with this, but we'll start with something small like this. This is just your basic AE2 system. Controller, terminal, drive with a disk in it, and power source. To this we are going to attach an ME pattern encoding terminal. In this is where you will throw your blank patterns in the top right, and in the crafting bench on the left you will add your recipe. If you're doing something with wood, for example, and want it to accept all types of wood, click on Substitutions Disabled, and it will then turn into Substitutions Enabled. Press on the little arrow, Encode Pattern, and you will have your crafting pattern. If you want to see what is hidden, so to speak, behind the crafting pattern, hold Shift or Crouch, and it will show up. So now you have your pattern, but nowhere to craft it. We'll start by adding a crafting CPU. Now, a crafting CPU is a multi-block that consists of any rectangle containing different types of crafting storage, which I will go into later. You can have 1Ks attached to 256Ks, and you can add a co-processing unit if you want. Remember, the co-processing unit is a block, the CPU is a multi-block. I haven't actually needed a co-processing unit yet as I've played, but if you want to know what it does, you can pause the video now. That's a helpful guide within the CPU. Now, the machine that'll do the crafting is the molecular assembler. And contrary to how it was years ago, you don't need an ME interface, you need an ME pattern provider on top of it, into which you can now throw your crafting patterns. Now, if we go back to the crafting terminal, we will see, so long as we have our view set to store/craftable, that we can craft an iron sword and a stick. Now, something cool you can do is if you have the materials required for an iron sword, but you don't have the sticks, so you've got the birch planks and the iron, you can click on the iron sword, and it's smart enough to know, I need to craft some sticks to craft this iron sword. You'll end up with an iron sword and 3 sticks because one of them was used in the iron sword. Let's say we want to do something more complicated, however, like smelting. When we add a simple furnace or whatever machine you want that has an input and an output, chuck an ME pattern provider onto it and go back to the ME encoding terminal. On the right, you will have noticed there is processing patterns, smithing table patterns, and stone cutting patterns. Go on to processing patterns. This will also work for your pulverizers. However, there you will need to use the secondary processing outputs. Put the main processing output, so for an iron ore for example, you put the iron ore in the center there, and in the primary processing result you will have 1 iron ingot. Make sure to only put in 1, because otherwise you will have a recipe that has 65 iron ore equals 1 iron ingot, and that will never work. Encode, chuck it in there, get some power to the furnace, and order your iron. Now, however, you will notice we can no longer craft anything else, because no crafting CPUs are available. However, if we hook up a second 1K storage, we will now be able to craft 2 recipes at the same time, because the iron ingot recipe is still in progress as long as the iron is in the furnace and not back in the ME system. So basically, however many Ks worth of crafting storage you have, that is how many recipes can be going simultaneously. To get our iron into the ME system, we will want to hook up an ME import bus. Remember, an import bus imports from an external block into the ME system, whereas an export bus exports out of the ME system into an external block. And now, all the iron is going into our ME system. And there you have it. Simplest auto-crafting in Applied Energistics. A problem you may run into is that when you have too many machines attached, you will see device missing channel and it won't work. This is because the standard glass cable can only provide 8 channels. So machine 1, machine 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is the ME import bus. That also counts as a machine. Now we add an 8th, we add a 9th, and the furthest away from the controller is now offline. To get around this, in this setup I'm using dense covered cable which can take 32 channels rather than just 8. As things get more complicated, you may want to add a pattern access terminal. What this does is allow you access to the pattern providers without actually having to go to them. And with that, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, do consider liking. Don't necessarily subscribe, I mostly do Forza Horizon and the Crew Motorfest on this channel. If you're interested, have a look, please, feel free. Other than that, goodbye, have a nice day.